I'd like to present to you all to our day's guest speakers. Dr. Renu Kishore, our first speaker today, has over 4 decades of experience as a professor of psychology at the University of Delhi. Counseling psychology has been one of her areas of emphasis. She has been an active member of key academic organizations such as the National Academy of Psychology and the Indian Association for Family Therapy over the years.
Thanks to the organizers of this webinar, this program. I really think the topic you have chosen is extremely useful because all our lives, we try to run away from uncertainty. We like to stay in the comfort zone. So I'm glad you've taken that up today. Looking forward. I just want everybody to pause and reflect on how it has been feeling, especially over the last couple of years during the pandemic. When it struck us in India, it was, I think, around third week of March, middle of March, I would say. It was just after our festival of Holi. That is when we got news there's going to be a lockdown, and initially it was just for a week, and there was so much of confusion, so much of uncertainty. People thought it's just going to be a very short lasting lockdown, and maybe there's overhype about it. Maybe things will be okay, it's just like the flu, we'll get over it, not a big deal. But then gradually it started sinking in that it's something very serious and it's going to continue. And then there have been phases. Phase one in India was, of course, bad because it was the first time we were facing something like this. But then things got a little better and everybody relaxed. Then came phase two in 2021, which was extremely difficult because of lack of oxygen, lack of hospital beds. Then came a lull, and now we are just about to overcome the third phase. In brief, I would say that the pandemic has shaken each one of us out of our contentment stage. We human beings, I think we thrive on certainty. We are so used to routine, whether it's college students here who are so used to, after school, you get admission, then your college routine, you have to follow the syllabus, you have certain timetable, everything is predetermined. Of course, after school, college is a bit uncertain. So there is a little bit of a confusing stage, a period of adjustment, but it gets over and then we settle down. But we take things for granted. We take our parents for granted. We take school and college for granted. We take nature for granted. And I think this was a big jolt out of the blue for everybody, regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sociocultural environment. For all of us, it was a major jolt. And it did lead to a lot of negative emotions, a lot of adjustment, readjustment, staying home all the time, and just being on. Initially, it was like a honeymoon phase. Okay, we are playing games, we are baking cakes and all that, and everybody was kind of delighted. Nobody has to get up early in the morning. But then it started sinking in that there are many people whose livelihoods are being taken away. They are not able to earn. There are losses of many kinds. There was the migration crisis. Villagers who were, daily wagers started moving out from the cities to their hometowns. So what I was trying to say that this period of pandemic has been especially very traumatic. And in a way, it has led to a great increase in problems of mental health, as Vaishnavi was just telling us, there is an increase in depression, negativity, a sense of helplessness, hopelessness. So yes, everybody is dealing with those repercussions, consequences of uncertainty, because what is the uncertainty about? Is the illness going to strike me? Whether I will wake up tomorrow, whether my parents are going to be there tomorrow, will I have enough food to eat tomorrow? Will I get a bed in the hospital? What will happen? Will I have exams or not have exams? So there is so much of uncertainty since the pandemic has started, but I want to here now clarify and come back to the non-pandemic stage also. Even though we take certainty as a comfort factor, uncertainty is a reality of life. Everything is uncertain. The only thing is that we are very often very complacent about it, and we have a lot of expectations. Parents have to provide for us, teachers have to take classes, we have a routine, but we have a sense of entitlement. On the contrary, whenever there is any uncertainty, we tend to, our feet, the carpet under the feet kind of is taken away. And it can happen even otherwise, regardless of pandemic. There can be crisis in our lives. All of us have faced crisis, and that is why I want each one of you to pause and think, how did you feel when there was uncertainty in your life before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and try to get a feel of those feelings that you got, that you had. There's a sense of mystery, there's a sense of helplessness. And as a therapist, as a psychologist, I've had so many persons, not just during the pandemic, but even before that, who had expectations from the career line they chose, the subject they chose. I'm talking in the context of college students. So, there is, whenever we feel too certain about something, we have very rigid expectations. And expectations are actually the downfall of our stability, because expectations are hardly ever met with. So whether it is with regard to other people, family, friends, somewhere or the other, there's going to be a disappointment. So disappointments, question mark, confusion is there in our lives. It's a part of our lives. I strongly believe that the pandemic has taught us a great lesson. I think it has had its negative repercussions, but I strongly believe that it has jolted us out of our slumber. And today we are more resilient. We are more prepared. We are more in charge. We understand the importance of routine. Otherwise, we used to say, oh, life is so boring. Boring is a very typical complaint of youngsters. It's so boring. It's so boring. Wohi college jao, wohi college se aao, assignment karo, that kind of a thing. So yes, so this was nature's way of telling us, don't take nature for granted. Don't, your routines are helping you to stabilize yourselves. So now I believe that we have learned to be grateful for whatever we have. We have learned to be prepared. Hopefully we are learning, because I know we are far away from there and there's a lot of careless attitudes, but definitely we are now more resilient, stronger, empowered. And I hope we stay like that. I hope we don't take each other, nature, everybody for granted any longer.
I believe we have been discussing quite a lot of positive things, and I think there is much more to it. You see, I remember a news article, it's from 2020, when India had declared a nationwide lockdown for the first time. And there had been something quite interesting in the city of Noida. 21 people had died from corona in that year, in the first wave, and 53 software engineers had committed suicide in the same year. The cases of suicide in that time span were more than the people who had died from corona, actually. There are people who have lost their loved ones. There are people who have been scarred for their whole lives after this pandemic. How do you take that? And what are these guys supposed to do?
Can I try to respond to that? You're absolutely right, Prithvi. I'm in fact very glad that you're bringing that up, because as mental health professionals, we like to talk only about the positives. But I'm glad you've brought that up, because yes, there has been, as Suruchi also said, mental health pandemic. And yes, there were suicides. Yes, there were families that were disrupted. There were kids who lost both their parents. There were people who lost, there was an intense struggle during each phase of the pandemic, in every phase of the pandemic. Yes, it resulted in a total chaos at home, at workplace, in the education area. Yes, there was a lot of depression, as you rightly pointed out. There were suicides because people were not able to cope. I have been counseling on a voluntary level. I've retired from active teaching, but I have been on many voluntary groups which are providing counseling. And there were college students who were stuck in hostels. There were college students who were stuck at home because it was just after the holy break. They had no books. They were feeling so flustered. They had no money sometimes. So it was, life became absolutely chaotic. And yes, it resulted in tremendous anxiety, also family discord, because not everybody, every home has digital devices for online studies. Not everybody is blessed to be having a huge bank account and do internet transfers. So yes, life came to a standstill. And also the psychosocial factor, being stuck at home. Yes, there were so many positives which we have talked about. It made us slow down and get back to family relationships. But the opposite also happened. Everybody breathing down each other's neck, and children not having their own rooms, or even if they had, they would lock themselves up. So definitely there was a lot of family discord about responsibilities, who is going to do what. There was tremendous confusion in roles and the household work that was to be done. And we didn't have a script. There was no ready-made script at all. Otherwise, we ordinarily have a script, okay, when you go to college, this will happen. If you go to a hostel, all this will happen. But nobody was prepared. There was no ready-made script. Whatever happened was, I think, a century back. So we didn't have any guidance. Now, as your question, if I have understood correctly, how do we help these people who have been affected in a very major way? The good thing that I want to focus is that I'm very proud of our youngsters. I found in India, at least, I can talk about India, so many groups came up, support groups. There were groups on Facebook, on social media, trying to connect people, where is a hospital bed available, where is a blood donor available, where are platelets available, where is a particular medicine, trying to connect. So it was so heartening to see that even in neighborhoods, I found that people were providing food free of cost to each other, to the affected families. So it actually did bring a lot of cohesion, which was earlier missing. And the other thing that I feel is that I'm also proud of our mental health professionals. I think we did a lot of pro bono work, free work, voluntary work. So I think this community, the tapping of community resources is something that is still necessary. It hasn't been, it's not over yet. There are people who are still struggling without jobs. I know so many people who have not earned, auto walas, taxi walas, tailors. Everybody had no income, absolutely no income, and they're still struggling. People who have lost the earning family member or a mother figure, they are at a standstill. Their lives are affected. So I think programs such as these and youth, and I'm 7 decades old, so I believe that I have to give back to the community. We have taken a lot from it. We have taken a lot from the resources available, which we have taken for granted. But now is the time to give back to society, and without being selfish. So I hope that this has provided a warning bell that it can happen to me too. Today it has happened to somebody. Tomorrow I may be in the same boat. So let us put our heads together, our resources together, and there are so many free resources today. I'm talking about free mental health resources. If you all want, I can provide links to the organizers. And not everybody in India can afford a counseling session. It's very, very expensive, and it's not covered by insurance. We hardly have any provision. So there are people who are pitching in. So I hope that answered your question, Prithvi. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone present out here. So I have one question. As much as we talked about resilience and patience, we also can't forget that I feel people have also become more vulnerable in terms of their emotions. I don't know if it's 101% healthy too, because I feel as much as we've started to recognize our emotions, we've also started overthinking way too much. Like things which don't deserve our attention, we've been putting too much efforts into that. So my question would be, what do you what do you feel is emotions coming out in this manner a positive impact because of this pandemic, or we really need to regulate that too? Like, how do we practice that care for our brain wherein we put it in a zone that, oh, this doesn't deserve our attention, this doesn't serve us, we do not have to spend so much time thinking about it?
And your question, Akshita, that there are most people who are youngsters who are overthinking, right? And then tend to get into negative thinking and negative emotions. Is that it? So I agree with what Suruchi said earlier also. What we have to learn is self-control and self-care. Self-care does not make us selfish. Self-control is something that we have to inculcate. Make short-term goals for yourself. As she rightly said, keep a certain time for overthinking, for anxious thoughts. Otherwise, then distract yourself into something positive. And there are so many opportunities besides studies. There are so many other things that are happening today. New games, Wordle has come up. Even I've got addicted to it. And there are so many courses that are available online. At my age, I have undertaken 4 such courses. Coursera, Udemy, there's so many. And for a minimal amount of fee, you can learn something. As Prachi's daughter, 10-year-old daughter also did. So what happens is that the more you stay idle, the more your thoughts are going to overpower you. So try to include structure in the routine. Structure sounds boring, but it's very important. A little bit of structure is important, of course, not very rigid. Don't be too harsh with yourself. But when we talk of self-care, it also refers to sharing with your peer group. Peer support is very important. Very often you don't know who to go to. You don't know where is a professional available. Usually all colleges do have some counseling services, but even if you can't find any reference, at least you can talk to a peer, share your feelings. Journaling, writing down your thoughts is extremely helpful. Also, positive affirmations. Try to just tell yourself that, as she rightly said, Suruchi said, stop, I mean, this is unhealthy. It's not doing me any good. Okay, let me think of some positive things which I can say to myself. I'm getting better. I'm getting better. I think I'm going to stop. Only today I was overthinking, or since the past week I'm overthinking or feeling depressed. Now I'm going to get out of it, just take a shower every day. And even if you're working from home, and dress up properly, it does wonders to the spirit. And now things are easing out, so we can go out into nature, go out for walks, and make a social connection every day. Call up a friend, call up an aunt, call up a grandma. Try to connect with people. That gives you a lot of impetus to to help others and to seek help yourself. Sharing really helps. And diverting your mind. Gratitude is another very important technique. Every day when, I always ask people to create a positive memory bank and a gratitude bank. You can always, there are so many things we are grateful for. So instead of focusing what I don't have or what is lost, why not focus on what I have? I am blessed, and every one of us is blessed in so many ways. And make a promise to yourself. Yes, I'm going to study. I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to share. Don't feel very, don't be very strict with yourself. So learn to enjoy that period which you have got, extra period. Instead of overthinking, use it for something better, positive.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really enlightening.